Hi guys, welcome to this video on how to create an Excel dashboard. In this video, we are going to be building this interactive dashboard you see right here. It is completely made in Excel for free and it also has many features. I got the Excel spreadsheet sample from excelfind.com and now let's jump right into the video. So when we collect data in Excel spreadsheet, it's probably not going to be useful since there are multiple null values, corrupted values, inconsistent data, values of not particular type and other values which should be probably not there. This type of data is called noisy data or unclean data. So we will be now cleaning or make sure this data is useful. The process of cleaning data into more organized and useful way, this process is called data pre-processing. So first, uh, now let's start to clean data starting from date. So if you can see here, we can unselect it all and we can see that these values do not belong here. So we click this and these are the values which are corrupted and blank. We don't need these values particularly, so let's delete it. There are also other methods of data pre-processing, such as you can use conditional formatting or you can even use pivot tables. But since the amount of corrupted data here is pretty low, we can use this itself. So let's delete this. Within a short amount of time, let's see what happens. So after all the cleaning and pre-processing of the data, this is how the data probably going to be looking. So here we can see this is the date in which the customer had acquired the product. This is the type of acquisition, whether he got it directly or from an ad or he's a return customer. This is the state where the customer who had brought lives. This is the type of product. This is the price of the product he had given. This is the number of units he had bought. This is the total revenue we got from him buying our product. This is the delivery performance, whether it was delayed or on time. This is the return, where it says whether the customer had returned a product or not. This is the customer satisfaction. It's basically a customer review, whether he gave it very good review or not. It is represented in numbers. If it's very low, it is 1. It is low, it is 2. Whether it is okay, it's 3. And it's high, it's we have given it as 4. So now we'll be creating a pivot table for this. So in order to create this pivot table, you select a cell from the table, use Ctrl A. It will select all the cells which have values in it. Go to insert and there's going to be a pivot table. You click this and okay, you get the pivot table. Now pivot table is a feature in Microsoft Excel which allows you to easily organize and take the data which you only want. For example, we can put the state here and the units and the total revenue we got from them. So like this. So now we are going to be using this pivot table to create multiple charts. So first let's make a revenue over time chart. So first let's have the date in the rows column and the revenue over the values column. We probably don't need the quarters, so let's remove this field. This is the row of, now let's do this so we can see each and every month's total revenue. Now let's make a line chart for it. So let's click this, analyze. Here we can see there's a pivot chart. Let's click the line chart and click OK. This is the line chart. So as you can see, there is January, March, but not February and other values. So let's stretch it out. Yeah, this is good. Then we will delete the unnecessary elements which we don't need. We will hide these values. Yeah, now as we can see, the values here are not properly in currency, so let's change this into currency by format axis. You can see that display units, let's make it in hundreds so it's more easy looking. And we click number and click currency. Now it has been changed to Indian currency. So this is the revenue over time chart. Now let's see the region over revenue chart. So now let's start by making the revenue over region chart. Let's take the process data here and insert another pivot table. Here we will use the state over rows and the total revenue we got. When in To make a map chart or a revenue over region chart, we go to insert and here maps, and it says that you can't create this chart type using pivot table. So what we do is we copy this chart, paste it nearby, and then select this chart again and create another map chart. Wait for some time. Now it starts showing the regions which I have given. So we will now delete the unnecessary elements which we don't need. Now what we should do is that click the map, right click it, format data series, where you should see that map area only regions with data, so it will only show the regions where data is there. Now we get this chart. This is the region over revenue chart. When you copy the elements over to the another row, make sure that the sum is not the exact copy, since when you change the dashboard, the values will not change according to the table. So what we need to do is press equal to, and this will make sure that you have a cell reference to the sum of revenue in the pivot chart. So when you change the values will also change in the map. This feature is only available for the latest Excel. I think it's 2019. So some of you might not be able to get this chart. So now let's make a delivery performance over number of transactions chart. So we go and create another pivot table. So now let's take the delivery performance over to rows and the revenue over to the values. As now we can see, it shows the sum of revenue which we don't need. We need the number of transactions. So we click value field settings and change it to count. Now this shows the number of transactions. Now let's make a donut chart for this. The reason why I chose a donut chart or pie chart is because we are going to be entering a value inside the donut chart, which looks pretty good. So now let's delete the unwanted things, and now let's have a percentage of this. For that we need to is equal to divided by the grand total. We get 67 point something. We will change it to percentage, and now let's create the text box for it. Now we should not just put the value 67 here, as when we change the values of the dashboard, it will still remain 67. For that to not happen, we will need to click equal to, enter the cell reference, and press enter. Now we here just have to change the alignment. Yeah, that looks pretty alright. The next chart is going to be the return over the number of transactions chart. So it's going to be another donut chart. For that, let's create another pivot table. This time we need the return for the rows, and just like the previous one, we change this to count. Since we also need the percentage of here, so let's change it to equal to divided by the grand total, and we change it to percentage. Now let's make the pivot chart for this. It's another donut chart. Just like the previous one, we delete the unnecessary elements, and now let's insert another text box. Make sure you use the percentage in the formula bar. We enter the cell reference. Now we align it. Yeah. So the next chart will be the customer acquisition type over the number of transactions. So just like before, we create another pivot table. This time we need the customer acquisition type over to the rows, and the revenue over to the values. Now just like before, it shows the sum of revenue, but we need the number of transactions, so let's change it to count. Now the chart which we are going to be using is pretty trendy these days, and it's the waterfall chart. So let's go to the pivot charts, and yeah, waterfall. See, it says you can't create this chart type with the data inside a pivot table. So what we should do is that, just like in the map chart, we need to copy these values over to this cell. You make sure, and you also need the grand total for this. And just like in the map chart, make sure that the values are referenced to the pivot table. So it will be equal to the reference, and enter, equal to now let's make the waterfall chart by going to insert, sorry, now let's go to charts, and there should be this is the waterfall chart icon. So let's click the waterfall chart, increase the size a little bit, and as you can see, there are some unwanted elements here which we don't need. As you can see, the total column alone is also considered as another value. We need to make it sure that this is a total column, so we right click this and set as total, and now we can see that this is the increasing values over the customer acquisition type, and this is the grand total. So our next chart is going to be a two-dimensional customer satisfaction over product and number of transactions chart. So for that we make another pivot table, and the product over to rows, the customer satisfaction over to the columns, and the total revenue to values. As before, we need the count, so let's change the value settings, and this is the pivot chart, this is the start, this is the pivot table. Now let's make a 100% full stacked horizontal bar chart. Yeah, that's its name. Let's hide the field buttons, and this is the chart. As you can see, it has very low, low, okay, high, and very high, which is what we need. If we want, we can also delete this since we don't need this. And as you can see, it is in product 1, product 2, product 3, product 4, and product 5, which is in actually a descending order. We don't need that. Yeah, this is good. Now that we have finished all the pivot charts we needed, let's start creating the dashboard. So I have already made a pre-made template for the dashboard. So now using Microsoft Office, so now let's start by inserting all the charts we need. We need some area for the region over revenue map, that is the map chart here. Let's make sure that this doesn't affect the dashboard template. For visibility, let's change these to white. As you can see, these values are not pretty good looking, so let's change those two. For that, we need to go to the format axis option, create on tick marks, and labels, we change them to true, and let's do that too. And now we need to, let's also get rid of we also don't need these lines to be specific. So now let's resize that so that we get the exact, yep. Now we can get the year as well as the month. So now let's change the line. So since it's in blue color, we can change it to white, and after that, if you want, we can also give it a gradient line, but we don't need it present. Now let's go and copy our map chart and paste it here. Similar to the line chart, we should also format the chart to in order to change the color respectfully to the values we have given, we click this, and there is series color, we change this. So let's give this white and this to this color. And now for the next chart, it is the donut chart. Now we copy the donut chart and its reference value, and we paste it here. As you can already see, the reference value does not work here. So what we need to do is that we need to manually input it. So let's write the chart name here. Donut chart 1. And when you enter the value comes. So now let's put this here. We don't need the legend. Reduce the size, and we don't need the annual line. Now let's increase. Now let's change this value to no fill, and this to a white color. And now what we need to do is that first let's change the fill here to no fill, and this to solid fill, and let's change its color to white. And we increase the size of it a little bit, throw it in, and now we put this in here, increase the number, and voila, we get this effect here, which looks pretty good. And make sure that there is no line. And now we do this for the next chart too. Now let's copy the second donut chart. So its value will be Control C, and we paste it here just like before, and it doesn't work again. What we need to do is that we need to type the chart name manually. So let's do it. Donut chart. Donut chart 2. Now the value comes. So let's take this legend out, no fillet, and this too, no fillet. Make sure we don't have any lines here. Now let's put this and resize it. Now let's change this to no fill, this alone to no fill, and the other value to white. Just like before, we change this to white, reduce its size, and increase the font size. So now we get two donut charts. Now since we given them the percentage, we need to specify what values these percentage indicate. So let's insert a text box here, format it again, no fill and no line, and we give it white and make sure it's on time. Yeah, it doesn't look good, so now what we do is we increase the donut hole size for 80 should be pretty good, and now we can have it 67% on time. Let's do the same here. Let's change the donut hole size to 80. And this will be the return. Let's align it. Yeah. Now let's add the next chart, which is the waterfall chart. Let's copy it and paste it here. Let's resize it to what we need. We don't especially need these lines, so let's take it and no fill, no line. These values are barely seeable, so let's change those two. Now let's make sure that the values are at the center. Since it's pretty good when we see it like that. Now let's change the color. Now let's change the color of this alone, so we get now this looks pretty good. Now for the final pivot chart, it's going to be the horizontal bar chart. So let's copy this, paste it. As you can see, it doesn't fit it now. So now let's format this, make sure it goes to the bottom, extend it. We don't need these lines, so let's take them, and just like before, we will do it with no fill, and we need 9, so let's have a solid white line for not for these but rather these. So let's have solid line for every one of these. Now as you can see, the values are not visible, so let's change them to as you can see, these colors do not look pretty good, so let's change those to gradient fill. Now that we have added every pivot table and edited it, now let's make sure we add the headings for each and every one. Table SA sales. Let's reduce these. This will be the customer acquisition. Now these will be the delivery on time or whether they returned it or not. So now here it will be the customer satisfaction. So now that we have finished every outline of the dashboard, to make it interactive, we need to add slices. For that, we select a table, go to insert, click slices, and we need customer acquisition type. state, product and years. We get the values. I have already made a space for this, so let's just add it here and make sure there is no items with no data. So let's hide the items with no data here. Now let's put these here. As you can see, the changes in the slicer is only reflected in the change of the line chart. So in order to connect each and every slicer to each and every chart here, so we need to connect these. So for that, we right click and click remote connection and click report connections, and we select each and every one, every chart. This should be done to each and every slicer. So now when we click a single element, it changes every chart. As you can see, a change in a single slicer or multiple will change a change in each and every slicer will change each and every graph present. So this is how you make the interactive dashboard in Excel. Thank you for watching this video through the end. Hope to see you again.